unless you're part of Flat Earth Society. And we're also going to dabble in extraterrestrials.
Yes.
So,
Going to be some very
Mr.
interesting subjects that we're talking about today.
Mr. Dulles Tower, if you want to kick us off here.
Yeah, so today it is episode 2. First, I'd like to say thank you guys for joining us. If you're watching us live at twitch.tv/idiots talking candidly, or if you are watching this on the YouTube video at our YouTube channel, Idiots Talking Candidly podcast. Um, this is episode number 2, and the topic that we are going to be discussing today is space and aliens. We might dabble a little bit into conspiracy theories, but we're trying to save that for hopefully another episode.
Yeah, that's
So,
because there's a lot to talk about on that one.
yeah, and different conspiracy theories other than just aliens. Um, so I guess we could start talking about space first. Space, in case you can't tell, in like some of the pictures that I have like around my room, I'm a huge space fanatic. I like space. It's very interesting to me. Um, it's one of those subjects that we don't know a lot about, but we know more about space than like our own ocean, which is kind of weird if you think about it, you know? Like, we
Yeah,
know more about the vast unknown than we know what's under our waters.
yeah, and that's a good way to put it. I think space in general, people as a whole are more obsessed about it than the ocean because there's something about the great unknown that lies just above us, above all of us. And there's so many conspiracies and like thoughts out there and theories as to what it is. Um, and you got like massive organizations built around just space
Yeah.
that like people talk about all the time that like are popular brands like NASA. And I think it's funny that you mentioned like we don't know nearly as much about our own ocean as we do our um the space around us. And funnily enough, like I can think of like four massive like space organizations, whereas I can think of maybe if I really think about it, one organization that deals with like ocean exploration,
I,
and probably not
I
even
couldn't
that.
even tell you one place that deals with ocean exploration.
Yeah, fuck the ocean.
I think it's more interesting for people to hear and discover about space compared to the ocean because like we think about the ocean as being connected to Earth, so we just kind of assume that there can't be anything crazy in the ocean since we already have access to pretty much everything on Earth as it is. So
Yeah,
I think people find it more interesting to think like if there's anything worth finding, it would probably be, worth finding out in space, in the vast nothingness, away off of our planet. Um, which brings me to like the first thing. It's crazy to think that the how it's crazy to think how space is measured, right? Like space is measured in light years. So
measured.
you what? Don't
You said
don't
space is measured light years.
Yeah, it's measured in light years. Don't correct me.
Measured.
It's measured in light years, and the way
Yes.
that we can define how old our entire universe is by seeing how far back we can look, and it is 93 billion light years. So that's the furthest we can see. We can see 93 billion light years away, which converts to 93 billion years old, which is weird because if you think about it, we can only see 93 billion years or wow, we can only see 93 billion light years away. But
Yeah.
the universe might be even older than that, right? We're just not seeing it because it's taking a year to get back to us. Because a light year, I guess, you know what? I guess we should kind of define what a light year is, right?
A
What's that?
light year is the it's how long. Hold on, I got this. Hold on, hold on.
If you don't,
A
I can get
light
it.
year is essentially how long it takes. It's light. If it is a light year away, if I shine a beam of light at it, right, it'll take a year, like an Earth year, to get there, right? That's how it
Yeah, yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So in and kind of like layman's terms, it takes a year for whatever you're seeing to hit you, like to hit your eyes. So
Earth years.
yes, Earth years. So, say for instance, there's like an alien civilization, and we're not talking about aliens yet. I'm just using it as an example. But let's say an alien civilization is 5 light years away, and they're looking at us through like some like astronomically dope telescope. They're
Yeah,
seeing the Earth 5 years older. They're seeing it like in, oh god, I can't do math. 2016. They're seeing the Earth in 2016 because they're 5 light years away, and it takes 5 years for that light to get back to them. So if you think about that and you apply that logic to the 93 billion year old universe that we have, we're only seeing 93 billion light years because that's how long it's taking to hit back to us. But when that light hits us, time is still going.
yeah.
So we could be even older than 93 billion light years.
And I hate to get philosophical, but like time, just like light years, and like defining what a light year is,
Mm-hmm.
basing a measurement off of like our time, right? But time as a thing is a functionality only really used, as far as we know, by humans or by sentient beings,
Right.
right?
We
So
we we
like,
use time as the amount of time it takes us to rotate around the sun or revolve around the sun. That's why we have seconds, minutes, hours, days, months, years.
I just think that's an interesting concept because like, if I were to sit down and discuss with an extraterrestrial, right? And I was gonna be like, I'd be like, all right, so your solar cluster, your solar system, the planet that you live in, 26 billion light years away. And they'd be like, excuse me, what? Light years. And you'd be like, yes, so it is however long it takes for light to travel in like 1 year, right? So when we see your civilization, we're seeing it from 26 billion years ago. And they're going to be like, excuse me, what? Years? What's a year? And it's like, I always find that interesting because it's a man made thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally is just a way to describe not just like the sun going around, like, or the earth going around the sun, right? But it's also used to describe like age, like how long something has decomposed,
Right.
right? Is used in time. And
Specifically
it's
for us
such,
because it takes years for us to, to age and die. If there's aliens that don't die, why would they need to measure time? If there's aliens that need
yeah,
to not sleep, why would they measure night and day? Why would they care about all of these things?
exact. Well, I mean, everything decomposes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every elemental particle has half-lives, right? They disintegrate over time. I think that's how that works.
Maybe.
I mean, matter's never lost. It's converted into something. It's probably converted into like
Energy.
energy or like nuclear waste.
Sure,
So like
sure.
a thing of plutonium will have a half-life, and when it completes a half-life, the energy that is like destroying that matter is turned into radioactivity, right? So like everything decomposes. So they can understand the concept of decomposition
Sure.
because it's yeah, essentially it's dying. It's
Well,
figuratively impossible to not understand that part. And I think it's just interesting that time is how we describe that.
yeah. Well, here's something you can think about too, right? Because you said like decomposition. So these aliens, let's assume that other beings don't decompose, right? We know metal decomposes, right? We know we know dirt decomposes. We know the molecules that make up this thing and that thing. So I feel I feel like light years would make sense to them, not in the sense of it being a light year. Like, they wouldn't be like, what's a light year? They'd be like, oh, do you mean a so and so? Because they would understand, if they're technologically advanced, they would understand it takes light so long to reach something else. They know that distance. They might not measure it in years, they might measure it in distance. They might mean, oh, you mean so and so, or you might mean, you know what I mean? So I feel like it can be
Yeah.
kind of comparable, and there could be like a communication
Well, there's
or an
always an
understanding.
equation, right?
An
Math
equation,
is the
yeah.
universal language.
Yeah.
That's how we would, if we communicated to aliens that didn't have any basis on like our languages, we would communicate through mathematics because mathematics is, I mean, it makes sense. I have, let's say I have one phone. Now I have another phone. They don't know what the fuck a phone is, but they know there's two of them. This
Sure.
means two. If I show a phone, I show a phone, and I go like that. They're like, okay, he means blah 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 in my language, and I'll be like two, 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 and they're like, okay, I know what that means. And at that point, we can begin communicating,
Sure,
whether
sure.
it's through math or whatever. But I digress. We're not really talk. We're talking about space beings, not talking about space. I think space in general is interesting for the simple fact that it has like a bunch of like, I don't want to use the word interesting for not space phenomena because I just use interesting. So I'm gonna say bullshit phenomena, just like some random
I
ass happenings that happen in space that don't happen on Earth per
Yeah.
se,
So so
right?
so I'll let me say something too. So to kind of go off of that about like BS things that happen, I kind of think of like how we say that the universe is infinite, right? If
Yes.
you try to grasp your mind around infinite, it's crazy to think that there's something that is like physically infinite. There's you can't fill it full with anything. That's got to be BS, right? Like, our universe has to stop at some point. It can't just keep expanding. If it keeps expanding, where does it go? Does it
So
just create does it just create more area for it to go to? Like, how do you explain
I
that?
think so. If you think about the Big Bang Theory, and I don't know why I'm holding my old ass microphone, but if you think about the Big Bang Theory, right? It was an explosion of particles. Okay. That heat, I think, is the way to describe it. That heat can create matter because that heat can be turned into that energy can be converted into matter because there's no energy lost and no energy gained,
Sure.
right? And that's how they explain it. You can't create or destroy matter. Energy is technically matter in its own right, right? So technically, if you think about it, whatever happened with the Big Bang that created our observable universe, that is how much is in the universe. Whatever
Okay.
that explosion was that made life on our planet flourish, that created the moon, the stars, the planets, what have you, however much was in there, however big that explosion was, however much heat was created, is how much we have, right? Now, it's probably some unfathomable, unwritable, unspeakable number because anything planetary or anything that happens within like the celestial realm of things is unfathomable, right?
Sure.
So like you ever see those videos that like show like here's some stars. Here's our star and it's like normal size. You look at it and you're like here's fucking Beetlejuice and it's like thousands of times larger than our star.
Yeah.
You're like I can't think of that. Like you can't wrap and that's what I think that also if you want to round back to like why people are so interested in space is because you can fathom the depth of the ocean, right? It's fathomable.
Right. You can
You're like,
calculate it,
okay,
and you know it's got to be X amount of meters
yeah,
below.
there's three Eiffel Towers down for whatever reason. We like to use large objects to quantify distance in the ocean, which I
Sure.
mean it makes it more
It's better
fantastical.
than saying like Mount Everest, because not a lot of people can fathom how tall Mount Everest is, but a lot
Yeah,
of
so
people
if you
can see
take
pictures of buildings.
yeah, well, you can all see pictures of Mount Everest, but you still can't really fathom it because you can have an idea of buildings like, oh, there's windows, this is so much,
Sure.
and like the Eiffel Tower is a good one too that people like to use. So like if you look at Mariana's Trench, let's say, I don't know the exact number, but let's say it's like 600 Eiffel Towers deep
Sure.
or 60 Eiffel Towers deep. Maybe I'm way off with that, but it's a lot, right? But we're like, okay, that's a measurement. We're like, okay, well, how big is space? Well, I don't fucking know. You ask the scientist. Technically infinite, because our observable universe, there's more far away from it. Like you said, we can see 93 billion light years away.
Yeah.
And that's how we can gauge how old our universe is. That doesn't mean it's longer, that doesn't mean it's bigger, but to our sentient minds, it's infinite because it's literally not fathomable. Like you can't even plug it into like an intelligent machine
It just wouldn't
and
know.
have it because it wouldn't know. Exactly. We can't create something smarter than us. I mean, we probably could, but we can't create something smart enough to understand the concept of infinity, right? I don't know. I know I'm
See,
rambling about it.
that makes me kind of think. You think, my God, I'm stuttering. Okay, so like you just said, we measure our own Earth in like for instance the Mariana Trench, right? You can say we can stick 70 Eiffel Towers in it, and that's the distance, right?
Yeah,
That's crazy that we use measurements like that, because think about like smaller, and I know they're not as intelligent, right? But just thinking about the distance between like cells or
yeah,
germs or atoms on your body, right?
yeah,
And how small those things are compared to our like for just the Milky Way galaxy, for the matter. And
yeah,
the fact that we can only see to each particle, right? You can only physically, I don't even know if you can even see every, particle. I'm not sure. But it makes me think, if we can only see to the observable universe, so we're assuming there's more,
yeah,
go the opposite direction, right? Go down to as small as you can go to, and you think of molecules, cells, particles, whatever like the smallest integer is there
yeah.
something below that that we just physically can't see? Or is that like the bottom? Because I feel like it's kind of a cop out to say that the universe is infinite. If we're going to say that the universe is infinite, but we have no proof, then maybe that's where it stops. Maybe the observable universe, maybe we're all wrong, and the observable universe is just how much there is. That's all that there is. Because we can't prove that there's more, because we can't see it. Just like we can't prove that there's anything less than molecules because we can't see it. Does that kind of
I
make
think
sense?
it does make sense, but I think it's a statistical value, right?
Okay.
As we get to see more and more glimpses of the universe, we notice it's more and more, right? It's never not been, right? So in that case, it would be a statistical anomaly to not have anymore. Like we run out.
Sure.
Okay. Like if all of a sudden there's just like it's like blackness with like specks of space dust that we're seeing, and now it's just blank whiteness, right? That would be a complete and utter like anomaly. It would be like let's talk of everything. Like everyone, we found it. We found it. We found the end of our universe, and that would be so strange to think. That would also, I think thinking that would also be equally unfathomable than thinking we're endless because we have been
I
proved
mean, yeah,
countless time and time again that our universe is endless.
I think since we're humans and we have the mindset that our earth isn't infinite, our water supply isn't infinite, we don't have anything that's infinite. I think it kind of makes more sense to humans that there would be a finite amount of space. Personally. And kind of moving along, thinking about space, right? And
You
in the
shared on my
different
Facebook.
planets and the different stars that we have. I think there's an estimated like 6 billion Earth-like planets just in our solar system or our galaxy. Just in our Milky Way galaxy, not our solar system. Don't listen to me, I'm stupid. Just in our Milky Way galaxy, there's at least 6 billion other Earth like planets. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's water on them or they have an atmosphere, anything of the sorts. That means that they are a planet that is evolving around a star that is not too hot and it's not too cold, and it's like the perfect distance away. But that brings up the question, those planets, those 6 billion Earth like planets, are perfect for us. Those are the conditions that we evolved and morphed into.
Yeah.
Who's to say that there's not life that wouldn't be able to survive like Mars conditions or even Pluto's conditions? How it's so icy and rocky and cold, and there's the methane lakes and whatnot, phosphorus lakes.
Well, there are extremophiles that can like endure such harsh conditions.
Sure.
When you think about carbon-based life forms, that's what we consider like life,
Mm-hmm.
right? So like, your animals, your fauna, your humanoids, hominids, if you will. Those are typically carbon-based life forms, and they cannot exist in that extreme of a situation. Now there are special instances, right? Like there's an I don't remember what they're called, but there's extremophiles that can live in open space, right? And live. I
What do you mean in open
I don't have.
space?
Let me give you the exact name. Did you share it? Okay. Um. So open space, as in like extreme. Hold on.
While we're waiting for him to look this up, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're watching this on Twitch, say something in the chat. I promise we will respond.
So there's um. This is in my way. Got my face. I don't remember what they're called. Extremophile that can exist in space.
But those are extremities. So are you saying that Earth is the perfect anomaly?
I'll get to that
Because you're saying there's
because it's gonna drive me insane.
extremophiles that can live in freezing temperatures, whatever. That's just for us. That's
They're
not.
called radiodurans,
They're called
and
what?
they can exist radiodurans, and they can exist. The only organism to survive in space. Tardigrades is the like the radioduron is a subspecies. Tardigrade is the main species,
Well, what is
and
it?
they can live 10 days in direct space exposure.
What is it, a bird or something?
It's a bacteria.
It's a bacteria.
It's an
Okay.
extremophile. So when you think extremophile, you typically think bacteria
Sure,
or
sure.
amoebas or like single cell organisms,
So who's to say
right?
that's not an alien, right? Like we think that that's just an extremophile or just an anomaly that slipped through the cracks.
It
That could
can be
be
an
an
alien.
alien because if it doesn't have
It,
the same composition and the same, living conditions as us,
you need to define alien then, because like there are
alien doesn't
several
have to be
different.
living. I mean, okay, let me
I mean,
backtrack.
yeah,
It
it's
does
got to
have to be
be
living.
living.
It
So
doesn't
alien
have
could
to
just
be
mean
sentient. Like I don't think a bacteria is like sentient, right?
no, no,
Bacterias don't have like a brain. They just function on their DNA. Their DNA
no.
tells them they need to expand, so that's what they do, right? I'm
You
assuming
need
that's how
to,
that works.
yeah. So it's essentially just like series of like instinctual functions,
Right.
right? It produces. It doesn't have like feelings. It doesn't have a complex nervous system. It's a single cell organism
It
that
follows its
doesn't.
DNA.
It follows its DNA and then it rewrites the DNA and makes copies.
Sure.
So it yeah, it's unseeable. So it depends on your definition of alien. To get back at that, so like an extraterrestrial, okay, alien could mean just like unbeknownst to you.
Mm-hmm.
So like that idea to me is alien, right? Now we're getting into semantics here, but if you're thinking of like a being, you see something of the unknown, you can describe it as alien. An extraterrestrial, I think, would be the better term to say. A tardigrade isn't an extraterrestrial, it hails from Earth.
Sure.
Okay. Extraterrestrial just means from a different planet, from a different place in space.
So
Okay.
you would say that this anomaly that we had, the tardigrade or whatever, that wouldn't be considered an extraterrestrial
No,
because
because it
it
hails
comes
from
from
Earth.
Earth.
It's from Earth, as far as we know. Now, if tardigrades, I don't know much about tardigrades. I just know my friend wrote a paper on them in high school, and that's why I know about this. But if they came down from a fucking meteor, right,
They'd be
from a different
extraterrestrial.
planet, and they lived, yeah, they'd be extraterrestrial. But you know, who's to say they did that? I don't know. I don't know the research behind tardigrades. I'm a scientist, could probably say they didn't do that and say, Marcus, you fucking idiot. They're from here. I don't know. I don't know much about them. But an ET, an extraterrestrial, would be something from space. So like if we were to take some of the ice and drill a hole in Mars and take that ice core and bring it back home and examine what lies within the ice, and we found extremophiles existing in that ice, those those are extraterrestrial.
Okay, now correct me if I'm wrong. Um, they found ice on Mars, right?
They
Evidence
found
of
like an
ice.
ice patch, evidence of water is what they call it
So
because it's
have they tested that?
well, I mean they can, I mean how do you ship ice back from a planet via robot who's meant to live the rest of his days on that planet?
Okay, so what you're telling me is we need Elon Musk to send SpaceX up to Mars and
I mean that's why
test it.
it's kind of an important expedition, you know, because if they can go out in a spacesuit and they can find this ice and they can collect ice cores from it. Here's the thing though, it could be tricky and it could be dangerous because that water could have disease that we've
Mm.
never ever ever encountered
But wouldn't
ever.
disease mean that there's
Life.
life?
So you're literally have aliens inside you. If you want to think about it that way.
Sheesh.
Shush. No, but it's if you think but if someone says obviously think of like a hominid, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think of a being, a sentient being, typically one of supernatural ability
Sure.
somehow. A lot of people like to assume that aliens will have like some crazy psychic mind reading power, and maybe fuck it, maybe they do. Maybe they can like Bluetooth to each other like some fucking like weird ass AirPod system and
I
airdrop each other like
I want to think
thoughts.
it's more
I
like
don't
how
know.
cats communicate. Like cats don't meow at each other. They just kind of like use body language and give kind of signs like that, and they can communicate to each other to let
Whoa,
them
whoa, whoa,
know.
whoa. But like humans use body language to communicate, right?
Right, but we also have vocal cords and we're able to have a complex language. Cats only meow specifically for humans.
Yes,
They
I know.
hiss
I
at
understand that.
other cats, but
And they
that's it.
caterwaul. I
Yeah,
know
yeah,
about
yeah.
this. Like, but humans, you can't discount humans for that either. If you saw me and I'm just like, you'd come up and be like, "Yo, what's wrong? What's wrong?"
Right,
It's
right.
body language. Now, if I'm just like, just chilling, you wouldn't ask me what's wrong, because I'm fine. You'd be like, instead of what's wrong, you'd be like, "Hey, what's up?" And I'd be like, "What? How's it going?" You know. If I'm like, my brows furrowed and I'm just like red in the face and my shoulders kind of hunched over, my fists are clenched, and my teeth kind of like grate together, he's pissed off. Something made him mad, right? I don't have to talk for people to understand what's wrong with me, and I think that's
So
important body language.
I I understand that, but what I'm getting at with cats' body language, and you're not wrong because cats obviously do this too. They have their furrowed tail. That other cats can tell. Oh shit, he's pissed or whatever. What I'm talking about is if there's food nearby, right?
Yeah.
And another cat wants to communicate that, or if there's danger nearby and another cat needs to communicate that, sometimes they don't even give body language, and the other one just knows. The other one just, he kind of, I don't even know if it's like a look or how animals communicate, but it's like they can communicate to each other. And that's kind of what I think of how aliens would react, right? Now, not necessarily
Aliens
all
could
of
be
them,
like
because
cats.
some of them could talk with vocal cords, but the way that I think about how animals communicate with each other is a majority of animals don't communicate with their mouths.
I'm just on a tangent, dude. I mean, yeah, but my wife is right.
What?
We aren't talking about space anymore. Um, to get back on track, so like, yes, animals can exist in space. Animals, and there's like extremophiles that can exist in space, and extraterrestrials of any nature is unbeknownst to us.
I'm glad we have her
It's
moderating us.
unknown. I know. She's like, "Hey, bud, the
Okay,
fuck are you talking about cats for?"
let's
I'm like, "I
let's
don't know."
let's get back to the Lightyear conversation, right? Because something that has always blown humans' minds about space and the unknown is the fact that we can presumably space travel, right? And that's just crazy because it seems unlikely to us, right? Scientists say that going faster than the speed of light is physically impossible. They're saying that the speed of light is the max speed you can physically go. So if there's a civilization that is 52 million light years away, we will never be able to reach that civilization in our lifetimes, going at the max speed, according to scientists.
Now, you may be right, but like, there's a lot of sci-fi shit that kind of like talks about how that's not. I know it's sci-fi, it's like science fiction,
Sure.
but I think I read somewhere that like there's some truth behind it, like wormholes and shit in space, like
How they
open
like bend
pockets.
your molecules and teleport your molecules or something like
Yeah,
that.
and like they move them and replicate them in a different location.
Sure.
So like this entry, right, takes your molecules and just like copy, paste, and now you're way over here.
Would that
Let's
still be
say
you
this
though?
time between here. I mean, that's probably
I
a philosophical question that
I
aliens who travel through wormholes talk
I
about.
feel
I
like
don't
that
fucking
wouldn't
know
be
what that be
you.
mean.
I feel like if you're taking my molecules and copying them, or even if you're not copying them, if you're picking them apart and placing them somewhere else, I feel like that
Not
wouldn't
a
still be
black hole.
me.
Not a black hole, because a black hole would rip you apart. It would just take your molecules. I would say it cuts and pastes. You know, cut like deletes the
Sure,
text,
sure.
and then you can paste it elsewhere. Because copy means you'd still be there, and cut and paste. So, I mean, yeah, you can have the philosophical question: would that still be you? I mean, to you, you'd still be you. When someone asked that copy paste of you, would be like, "Are you you?" You'd be like, "As far as I fucking know," because like you wouldn't know any better.
Right, right.
I mean, the old you that got cut would probably be like, "Yo, I just got fucking deleted," and then you would wake up elsewhere. There's like a game that I played that like shows this so fucking well. It was called Soma, and the guy, it's a horror game, right?
I've never played that game.
And
I've heard about it though.
it's very interesting. So he at the end, spoiler alert, he wants to get on the ark, right? Because there's like these like creatures or some. It's been a long time since I played it. There's these creatures that are like killing off the humans. There's not a lot left. They're in like this underground like water system of like tubes and stuff. You ever seen that show? They're like in a submarine and they're really low below ground. It's like in the future, and they're all wearing like I don't remember what it's called. I'm digressing. Anyway, Soma, they're in like an underground civilization because above ground's all fuckety. Okay. And they're trying to get on this ark, right?
Okay.
And the guy that's being played right now was a guy from like 60, 70 years ago, but he went through this program to have his mind uploaded to like a robot or a system where he can communicate to his loved ones whenever the technology was available. Well, his mind got uploaded to a robot during this crisis. where these monsters or some shit were like taking over this like space station or this underwater station. Well, he had to find a way to get to the Ark because he wanted to live. What he didn't know is they literally just took his mind from that robot and copied and pasted it to the Ark. So that him is still there on that space station with all these monsters. Whereas he's just pasted his other part of the mind, the same mind, just copy pasted, is on the Ark living lavishly. So there is a version of him
That's being tortured.
somewhere in internal like torment on this like water facility with these like fucked up, crazy looking like monsters. And the other part of him is just in heaven, essentially.
So that kind of reminds me. I don't remember. I think it was Interstellar. Have you seen that movie?
No,
Okay. Well,
don't hate me for not seeing it.
spoiler alert. Um, long story short, to cut through all the shenanigans, he entered a black hole and it ripped him
Yeah,
apart, but it sent him back in, and it was weird. I think the visuals on it was amazing. He was in like another dimension, and he could see flashes of his old life as like these windows that were like appearing. So he's floating in like black infinite, right? And there's these windows that are popping up. Oh shit. There's these windows that are popping up. And he went into these windows and he could see parts of his life from 10 years ago, 15, 20, etc., etc., etc.
yeah.
Well, earlier in the movie, towards the beginning, his daughter hears like a knock, a book falls off a shelf, dust falls up and like flies up into the window, and weird stuff that doesn't make sense if you haven't seen the movie. But the reason why that happened, and the reason why she became a scientist, because she was like, oh, this is interesting, this is the answer that my dad was looking for, blah, 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 is because her father, who is in that same house 70 years in the future, got sucked into that black hole, went to this alternate dimension, and pushed on the bookcase and knocked the book down. So it was kind of like a time loop. That's kind of what that made me think of. Is like he lived his life and was an astronaut, got stuck on the planet, aged, da 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 da, sucked in the black hole, put him right back to the very beginning, and he was the one that caused it all.
That's very bizarre. I
It's a
need to
good
see that
movie.
movie. That sounds
You
interesting.
need to see it. It's really interesting. Um, so what what is scarier to you? The fact that there might be no advanced civilizations, or even just aliens in general. What's more bizarre, for there to be none or for there to be some?
None. Actually, I think none. And
I agree.
here's why. Because if the universe is adjust, if the universe is infinite, hello, there we go. If the universe is infinite, it would be a statistical impossibility for there not to be actually an exact replica of Earth.
Sure.
Like not only just like life, right?
But an exact situation where this is
But
happening.
an exact replica of Earth. And like you can
That's getting into some dimension territory.
like the multiverse theory, right? Where
Sure.
there's multiple different universes. You can think of that in like our universe. Like how if the universe is infinite, there is a solar system out there that these people on this planet called Earth, just like ours, that they call the solar system Milky Way galaxy, that there's two people on Twitch streaming idiots talking candidly.
Except I have hair in that one.
Well, shit, if that's what it wants to be, then yeah, yeah. Like, but because the universe is infinite, theoretically, it is a statistical impossibility to not have duplicates. So if you like think of like a integer, let's say an infinite integer that's like never ending. or one that's like unfathomably long, like pi, right? There's going to be copies of numbers, right? There's going to be copies of strings of numbers. Even crazier yet, there's going to be copies of giant ass chunks of numbers that are in the same exact sequence as numbers that were said before.
Okay.
And it's because it's infinite, just like our universe. So if you take this big string that is Earth, that is the Milky Way galaxy, that is planet Earth with humans, with Marcus, with Dallas, with this podcast, with this streaming service called Twitch, with all of this, that big string is duplicated somewhere in the infinite.
That
I don't make it all
see
like philosophical, but that's essentially what I'm saying.
that just kind of makes me think. So to backtrack a little bit, I do believe that there has to be aliens out there,
Yeah.
and my reasons are almost identical to yours. Right? If the universe is infinite, there's got to be at least one other. Not even another Earth. You don't even have to go that far, even though statistically it makes sense. If our galaxy, if our universe is infinite, right? There has to be at least some you know extraterrestrial life out there.
Yeah.
The
I
only
think so.
the only thing that just is mind-boggling is like the alternate dimensions, right?
Yeah.
That's the only one that doesn't make sense because yeah, there could be other Earths, but you got to think like there's no way that there'd be copies of us. You could have another Earth that has people, right? Because that would make sense. If there's an exact replica of Earth somewhere, people would grow up. But I don't think you'd have like a Julius Caesar. I don't think you'd have an Alexander the Great. I don't think life would fold the same exact way.
Well,
I feel
think
like
of
it
the
would be
string.
different.
Well, just think of the string, right? Okay, think of this. There are 7 billion people. Billion? Billion? Or trillion? Billion
Billion.
people. There's 7 billion people on Earth.
We'd be fucked if there were 7 trillion.
Yeah, yeah, I know. But with those odds, there is a handful of people that look exactly like you. Like dead fucking ringer. Look exact because of the genetic lottery,
Sure.
right? With what genes you're given. Okay? I know everyone's like, "Oh, I'm special because of." Shut the fuck up. There's 7 billion people out there. There's a handful of people that are fucking identical to you. With the amount of genes it takes to make an exact replica of yourself, maybe with like different lineage or whatnot, but like physically, you are an exact replica. It's the statistics are there, right? Because there's 7 billion people. So if you think about it, with infinite, it's limitless. There has to be. It's an anomaly if there's not. It's a huge problem if there's not. Because theoretically speaking, it's infinite.
I and I understand that. I think it's just hard for my mind to wrap around it. My whole problem with it, like I said, is if there would have to be the same circumstances, right? Like the
Yeah.
same fish would have to come out of the water onto land, produce eggs, right? Those animals would have to turn into mammals. Those mammals would have to do this, have to do that, etc., etc. Even if they survived, right, like the dinosaurs' extinction, the ice age, they became primates, they became humans, even if all of those things were exactly the same, you can't tell me that we would still have like the same exact Adam and Eve, or we would have the same exact King Tut, or all of these people. Like it's just when I think of that, like I can understand like a different universe where we're completely different people, right? Like there's two people on another universe making
Hold
an
on.
Idiots Talking Candidly podcast, but it's not Dallas and Marcus. It's Sasha and fucking Eric, right?
Hold on. Hold on. I think you're misconstruing my point a little. So like there is a potential for like any sort of universe, any sort of planet, any sort of solar system to have life on it.
Sure.
And that life can be inherently random, just bullshit life. It's a water planet with fucking shark-like creatures. That's it. But because of the word infinity and meaning limitless, it is impossible to not have duplicate strings, so to speak. It is literally impossible because if it's infinite, it's going to happen at some point. Now, does that mean it's in our observable universe? Probably fucking not. Because out of the odds of 93 billion light years of string, it's pretty weird for that to happen.
Sure.
But you say like 800 billion, 17 trillion, 250 trillion, quintillion in a string. There's duplicates. And that duplicated string might just be long enough that it has everything that we have.
Okay,
It
so
has everything we have, but Mars isn't called Mars. It's called fucking Ham. I don't know.
okay, I want to go side topic real fast. You know what this is making me think of?
But
It's making me think of the like interdimensional cable on Rick and Morty. And it's like I don't know if it was interdimensional cable, if it was the episode where they like went to a different universe, but it was a
uh-huh.
universe where there was chairs sitting on humans. It just makes me think there's like some couches sitting on humans streaming ITC.
Well, I mean, fucking maybe, but also like one thing that you do have to understand though is like just because it's infinite, it does also mean that like you have to follow the laws of physics.
So you're telling
So
me that
someone's like,
a tree
"Oh,
can't have life and it can't have an offspring of a little oak person that
oh
grows up
no,
to be
it
a
can.
chair
It
that
it
then
can.
sits on human flesh?
It can. But like if you were like there's a planet out there, I'm sure that there's people who could shoot fire out of their hands. No. Sorry.
Well,
There's
why
not
not?
really a place
Jellyfish
for
can sting people.
well, I mean like if there's like a biological mechanism that allows them to produce fire. But he can't be like fire, you know what I'm saying? Unless he had like some sort of like gland that makes him emit kerosene and his hands are made of match strikers, right? Then it's physically impossible. It's physically possible. But if he does like me and he's like fire, no, impossible because it breaks the laws of physics. So you have to behave with the laws of physics, just like with the multiverse theory. There's, I think that's exactly what I just explained. There's multiple different universes with the same shit, different shit, same shit, but barely different shit. It's because that
Do you
string.
think extraterrestrials understand this? Or do you think that they might have more information than us and they know like that's a stupid idea.
Sure,
There's no such
I,
thing.
I'm sure. I'm sure there's either some that either know what the fuck is going on, or there's some that have like the ability to like create fucking rifts, where they could just be like, go in there. You know what I'm saying? Which would be like breaking the laws of physics there. But if they have the technology for it, they could fucking do it. You
Yeah.
break the laws of physics by flying a fucking Boeing 747. That doesn't make sense, right? I'm sure like aerodynamics and shit proves me wrong, but it doesn't make sense when you see a fucking metal tube in the sky.
Sure.
But just like if you see someone open up a fucking rift in the universe and pull some duplicate of themselves out of it, you're like, that doesn't make sense. Well, if they have the fucking technology, they could do whatever the fuck they want with physics,
Yeah.
right?
Speaking of technology, um do you think that we use alien technology today? I that kind of goes
Mm,
hand in hand with the fact if you believe in aliens or not. And I'll say this, I'll say I think that we might be using some kind of alien technology. My only reasoning would be we had a very major technological advancement
leap. between the Roswell crash
Yeah, I don't remember
and
if
now.
Roswell happened in like the 30s or the 40s. It was some like early 90s or early to mid 90s. And
Hold
almost
on.
immediately after that, we we had
That's up.
the science expansion. We sent the first person to the moon like 10, 20, 30 years later. Now we've got
47.
smartphones. It just seems way too fast for me. And if you've noticed, I'll even say this: if you've noticed here recent years, I think it's been slowing down. Because if you think from 90, if you say 1990, right, where they used pagers
Yeah.
and very probably basic cell phones at that point in time, to 2019,
Yeah.
that was like a major advancement. But then if you look at 2000, well, you know what? I'm using the wrong gaps here. If you go at 10-year increments and you do 1990 to 2000, right? That was major.
Yeah.
If you do 2000 to 2010, that was even more
Major.
significant. If you do
Yeah.
2010 to 2020, I don't think it was that significant. Smartphones got a little better, smartphones got a little bigger. We've not had any new, internet technology. We've not had maybe better camera quality, better, internet
I
providers.
would
But like
I would
it's
hazard to
slowed
say
down.
like it has slowed down significantly. Like when the first smartphone came out, like there's multiple iterations of it afterwards where it's been like perfected. Now, if you
Sure.
think about it, like if you're thinking like, well, if these are from aliens, you know, they reverse engineered alien technology.
Yeah, that's what I'm
If it's
talking about.
slowing down, maybe we're just perfecting it. Or maybe there's just not any better than it can get. So, like, you have to think of the limitations of tech too. So we went from like our data storage to being like a
Megabytes.
massive well, kilobytes, right? So if you think of like kilobytes being like a small container like that, and that's what these store like kilobytes in. You think megabytes, it's like even bigger, right? Like a floppy disk was kilobytes. And then even bigger than that, megabytes was like, I don't fucking know, like a
They
hard drive, like an actual hard drive. And
they
then
had
after
like a
that,
big ass computer that stored like 25 megabytes of data, and it was like a
yeah,
$1,000.
yeah, yeah, it was like a
Now you can get
supercomputer.
multiple terabytes for less than 100.
We're finding ways to compact and write data in such a way that it's more compactable, right? And like an M.2 drive. Like if I went back in time and approached a like engineer of technology with an M.2 drive and I told him you can write 500 gigabytes to this drive. You tell me I'm fucking insane. Like what the fuck? He's like that's impossible. Because to them that wasn't possible. 500 gigabytes would fill a fucking room, a
Yeah.
server room, right? So, and if I present him with a file that was more than a gigabyte, he'd be baffled. Like if I showed him Call of Duty Modern Warfare, its file size, how it's over 25% of a terabyte, they'd be like, "Where do you put it? Where do you put this game?" Because they'd have to fill a house to play Modern Warfare with their storage.
You just can't sit there and tell me that the technological advancements from then until now has been too fast to the
Yeah,
point
they
where
seem
we would
accelerated.
need extra help, right? We would need some outside information to acquire some stuff like that.
Think of this. What else are we correlate? What else can you correlate this to? So, all our technological advancements seem impossible for human behavior and human intelligence. Now, think about the Egyptians,
Okay.
the humans then in Egypt, the pyramids. The pyramids were built. It took this long. You're like, that's impossible with the technology that they had, right? And they're like, well, we got help from
It's
gods.
still almost impossible with the technology that we have, though. For them to have completed it back then with their resources compared to now with our resources, it's almost like it's physically impossible for them to have done that by themselves without help. You can say that they pulled them on ramps and they had thousands of people pulling them with strings. Okay. If they would have done that, right? How did they carve the bricks perfectly? There's no way that they had the tech, because if you fuck up a brick, you got to go and the fact that they were getting the shit from a river that was hundreds of miles away from where they built the pyramids. You're telling me some bozo is dragging this big ass block all the way to your build site. He hits it the wrong way. Tink, he chips it, it breaks. Dude, they're going to cut your fucking head off. They're going to hang him in front of everybody for wasting a
Yeah.
month. You cannot tell me that they did that by themselves. I would
No,
argue
yeah,
that it is physically impossible for them to have done that.
yeah. I mean, yeah,
If you were
you're right.
wasting that many people on that, you would encounter death. You would encounter people rebelling. I don't think they would have
I'm
gotten
sure there was
finished.
that.
I don't think
We
they
have
would
to
have
think
gotten
it was a
finished.
century-long project,
We
right? It
don't
took them 100 years.
We don't know if it took them that long.
We can estimate based off of like the age of the rock at the base of the pyramid from the tip, right? Like we can do like
Okay,
carbon
but
dating.
what makes you think that maybe the tops got destroyed and they had to replace them? Because I'm sure they fought wars, and I'm sure that people rebelled against them. So you're telling me that just because the top layer was younger than the older layer, that doesn't mean anything. If somebody had swiped up and destroyed the top layer, they'd have to rebuild it, of course.
Listen, all I'm saying is that did aliens help them out? Fucking probably, right?
I'd
They
agree.
probably did, but we don't know. And the only explanation that we can have is that it just took them a long ass time. And carbon dating proves that it took them a long ass time. But it also probably take a long ass time to get help from fucking aliens.
Well, I would also argue that it was aliens too, because if you think about like their religion and who they looked up to, right?
Mm.
And I'm not gonna
Yeah.
get on a huge religion or even conspiracy theory thing because we're saving that for another episode. But um, their their Anunnaki that they were talking about, it was like the people that helped them, the greater beings, the angels, um, that comes from most religions. That's what they would be called, is that. Um,
Yeah.
their depictions of spacecraft and their depictions of giant beings, right? A giant being that could just pick up the slab and put it up there, right? A being that knows how to
Yeah.
fly and knows how to go up into the sky. Okay, why were these pyramids built at the exact coordinates of, isn't it the speed of light? I think the
It's
pyramids.
the center of the North Star.
No, but I also think the coordinates of it, longitude and latitude wise, I'm pretty sure is the speed of light, if I'm not mistaken. You just can't convince me that they did that on accident, because there's no way that they could know the speed of light because they don't have space travel. There's no way that they could know that that's the center of,
Yeah, speed of light.
whatever. There's no physical way that they could know that. They barely knew that the Earth wasn't flat. Now, obviously, they had their smart people that was telling them, oh, there's this that's up there, there's that that's up there. But they had no way to prove it. They had to just guesstimate, estimate. So the fact that you're telling me that they talk about these Anunnaki that helped them, and we just write it off as angels getting mixed up into the mix, right? Like their religion, their angel of death, Anubis, whatever. And that brings me on to the talk of religion too, but I just think that it all can be tied down to aliens. I think, because if you look at a majority of the religions, and they all have like the same philosophies, they all have this greater being that came and cured or helped somebody and is telling them these things, right? You
Yeah.
could say that was an alien, especially when these places never met each other, right? These places had
Yeah.
no contact with each other, and they all have the same philosophies. Aliens, bro. I'm aliens.
I mean, yeah, like I don't get too tinfoil hat, and I do agree with you. Like there had to be something, right? I mean, for like Pete's sake, there's like still a lot of people who claim to have seen aliens,
Hmm.
and claim to have seen like UFOs. I mean, like UFOs have been like confirmed by the United States government,
Sure.
right? They're like, well, we've seen some shit. Now they weren't like it's aliens, guys.
Weather balloons.
They were just like we've seen some shit and we don't know what the fuck it was, right? They're like, we seen this device flying through the air.
Everybody say hi to Jessica. Come on in.
Hi, Jessica. Hello.
Sorry, continue.
But they said, we see these things and we don't know what the fuck they are. They're unidentified flying objects, and that's what we have them classified as. Whether it's like an enemy plane that we just never seen before, blah blah blah. Who knows? We don't know what it is. Um, and like, there's there's so much to it, right? So like the different kinds of contact with aliens.
Ooh, excuse me.
I don't know if you've ever seen the movie The Fourth Kind.
I have very scary
That
movie.
movie is like it's scary and it's one of my favorite alien movies and it's why I would never travel to Nome, Alaska.
I know you
But
said that it terrified you as a child, but I just want to say when me and Stefan watched that movie, dog, I was afraid to go to sleep. I was afraid at seeing car lights passing by the window. I was like, "Fuck, they got me. They're gonna fuck my ass."
like seeing like an owl like in your
Yeah,
window or
exactly.
some shit, dude.
Dude, the first time I
That
saw an
freaked me
owl
out.
after that movie, I panicked,
You're
like
like,
panic mode.
that's an alien. That's an alien. It's my mind being replaced because it's now what happened. Like her brain replaced the alien that like abducted her with like the because they did something with her mind and made it to where like she remembers an owl in the fucking window instead of the alien.
Oh, because it was
Isn't
supposed
that
to
how
be
it
an
went?
alien in the window.
Well, it was an alien like abducting her, but it's like all she remembered was like waking up and seeing an owl in the window. And that's what the alien did. It was like, it's an owl. That's all
So
that happened is you woke up
wait,
and saw
hold
an
on. So
owl.
you're saying when she was getting abducted, right? She like looked outside the window and she saw an alien. But the alien like photoshopped her memory and replaced the alien with
Yeah,
an
replaced
owl.
like the memory engram with like an owl. And it was like that's all she remembered waking up and seeing was the owl. But then when she went through like a meditation and they
Yeah.
put her to sleep and like
She's
unlocked her
yeah, she
memories,
started seeing
she
the
remembered
aliens.
everything. Yeah, she started seeing the alien,
I
seeing
didn't
everything.
catch that from the movie. I just assumed cuz I was little when I watched it. I just assumed that the owls were physically the aliens.
Oh, they were like I assumed they were grays because it's technically based off a true story.
Well, yeah, cuz didn't the kid go missing and the woman's like in jail or prison or something because they're
No,
like,
she's like in a psych ward because she's insane and she swears up and down it's
well,
aliens.
yeah, cuz her son is missing, I'm pretty sure. Like in the movie when the aliens took him and
Yeah,
they're
he's
like,
gone.
"Dog, where is your child?" And she's like, "Bruh."
The aliens, and they're like, no, you have him somewhere. Where the fuck is he?
That's
And
got
they're
to be
just so,
scary, dude. Could you imagine like
yeah.
seeing your son get taken away from aliens and
You
nobody
know what's so
believes you?
scary? The scariest part of that movie to me was when it like spoke like ancient Sumerian, which is like one of the
Oh,
first
yeah, yeah, yeah,
fucking
yeah.
languages spoken. And it was like, I am God. And I was like, that's the
Yes.
first fucking language.
And that
Hello.
brings me back
You want
to
to make
my
it hello?
point. That brings me back to my point that the aliens are basically telling you that they're God. Look, look, you're telling me, bruh, I would cry if aliens took Atticus.
That would be awful. Yeah. And I would like swear up and down aliens did it and I would want to go
I'd be like
save
the
him.
only person that believed you. I'd be like, dog, he's not lying. Check out our
Yeah.
podcast. We just talked about it.
Do you see yourself? But no, like there are like the different kinds of contact, like the different kinds of close encounters is what they call it. Like there's like the first kind, and that's where the name of the movie, The Fourth Kind, comes from.
It's because it's the fourth kind of encounter.
It's the fourth kind. The fourth kind of encounter means abduction,
So what
right?
are the other
Whatever they do with
ones?
the abduction. The first kind is like you see a UFO in the sky that's at least 150 meters away, so like an unidentified flying object
Sure.
that is alien of nature. That's the first kind of encounter. Then there's the second kind of encounter where you see like evidence that this craft took off in an area, like
So
crop
like burn
circles,
marks or something?
burn marks, crop circles, things like that. That's close encounters of the second kind. Third kind is you see the craft and it is close enough that you can see the beings inside the craft, right? Fourth kind is when those beings come and visit you, abduct you. You are like essentially in like Twilight, which is like, like when you like get put under, they put you in Twilight and you don't remember shit.
Sure.
It's just blackness. That's what they do to you. And then they experiment on you and bring you back home. Like, here you go. Have fun with that, in therapy. And then the fifth kind is they're communicating to you. Like, technically, in the fourth kind, that woman who went crazy because her son was abducted experienced the fifth kind because it talked to her. Whoa, boy. You shit yourself down there. Are you good, boss? He just farted really fucking loud.
So, do you have any alien stories? Because I have two.
I have, I mean, I kind of have two. I have one for sure. The second one is more of like sleep paralysis.
Well, if you want to do
Um,
one, and then I can do one, and then you can do the other, and I'll do the other.
Why does it say nine? Hold on, I'm confused. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Our podcast crashed on my.
Um.
Um, are we still live?
Yeah, it says we're still live.
Huh.
Uh-oh,
It says
technical
we.
difficulties. Let me check. Give us 2.5
This
seconds.
said we've only been live for 9 minutes. A recent broadcast 8 minutes long.
Oh, yeah, it looks like it shut off. We have one from hour ago and then one from 10 minutes ago.
Yes, it looks like it crashed.
We're live
That's
now, again.
we're live currently.
Yeah, for 11 seconds.
Sorry for the technical difficulties, everybody.
Well, the good thing about that, it kind of sucks, but my recording did not stop, so we will still have the backup.
We'll have an uncut recording
Sure.
for YouTube. Well, sorry, Twitch, but I mean, you can go check out the full link conversation on YouTube with no cuts, no technical difficulties. But
YouTube.com,
we're still
Idiots
here.
Talking Candidly podcast.
You didn't miss much, I'm sure.
Just us rambling about
I've
the
only been
fourth
panicking
kind.
about. We've only been panicking about technical difficulties. And the fourth kind, yeah. But yeah, she technically reached the fifth kind, right?
Sure.
Because it like talked to her in like ancient Sumerian language and said, "I am God," and like screamed at her, and that shit scared the fuck out of me. And my encounters, like I don't know, we were talking about our encounters, not about the fourth kind. We already talked about that part, right?
Yeah.
Are
Yeah,
we good?
we were about to talk about our encounters that we had.
Okay. Okay, so my legitimate encounter was there was a time when me and my father, he was outside on the front porch back when we lived on Warwick Street in New Island off of Tracy, right? And we were outside and he was out in the front porch and he was having a cigarette. And we were playing like Guitar Hero or something at the time. I'm not even thinking about aliens. He's not even thinking about aliens probably. And he's like, "You see that?" And I'm like, "See what? What are you talking about?" And he's like,
Thinking he's
"Up
messing
there." And
with
he's
you.
like, and I was like, "Stop, you're scaring me." And he was like, "No, look at that. That's a fucking UFO." And I was like, "Ah, no, it's probably like a plane." And I look up and I see like a fucking like can I make a triangle with my hand? Like a triangle like that. And it's like flying slowly. And I know people are like, that was a stealth bomber. No, hold on. It had like a stream of lights kind of falling behind it. And it was like, imagine kind of like lasers. kind of following behind it, like thin beams, but they're short.
Sure.
So it looked like a propulsion system. And we were watching, we're like, wow, wow. And I think like my mom came out there and looked at it. And then like my brothers, I think one of them looked at it and seen it. But before that happened, it fucking took off. And when I mean took off, like my hand is like the visible sky and it's moving, and it gone, right? Just fucking zoomed, yeeted itself out of distance, like out of vision, out of sight.
See, you
I don't
can't
know what the
even
fuck
say
I'm
that's a
saying.
stealth bomber because people don't realize how big stealth bombers are, and they don't fly
They're
that high in
massive.
the sky. If they're flying, they fly. I mean, they don't fly low, but they fly relatively low to the point where you can physically, like, they look massive. You know what I
And you
mean?
could see them flying
Yeah, they're not a
at a
stealth
fast
bomber because
pace.
you don't see them. They're a stealth bomber because you don't hear them.
Yeah, and like you can see, even if it like if they go full thrust and they're zooming through the sky, which is probably pretty fucking fast,
Right.
you can track them with your eyes.
You can.
I couldn't physically track this as like a 9, 10-year-old boy with my eyes. It was like legitimately
Yeet.
impossible.
Jesse said yeet.
But hi, Jesse.
We're having technical difficulties on this live stream, Jesse. So if it goes down, apologies.
Yeah, it's all good. But do you want me to say my second one? You want to go with your first one?
You know, you can go ahead and do your second one. I'll just do mine whenever you're done.
Make me feel like a fucking asshole. I'm
No,
not
no.
trying
Okay,
to
I mean,
half
okay. If you
hog
want
the
to go
talk.
back and forth, we can go because my first story I was gonna say is kind of similar to yours. So I don't remember what year it was. All I remember is it was at my old house in Franklin,
Yeah.
and it was when we had that swimming pool in the backyard.
Hmm.
And it was was it before smartphones? I had an iPod Touch.
Yeah.
I just don't remember if I had a smartphone with my iPod Touch or if it was when I had like one of those razor slides. Anyways,
Sure.
so I'm in the pool with my mom and my brother. I think my brother was there. Anyways, hold on. All good, bro. Yes, you do need to get a camera so we can get on this podcast together. It's going to be fun.
Yes.
So I'm in the pool with my mother and my brother, and my brother
Hmm.
hops out and he goes inside because it was during that time he was like, I don't want to swim, I just want to play video games, blah blah blah, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, my mom hops out of the pool to smoke, and she's like sitting on our patio. And I don't know if you remember my backyard patio. It had like those grids,
Hmm.
where you could like wrap vines around them or whatever. Well, she was
Yeah.
sitting there, and she had her umbrella opened, so it was open, and she couldn't see the sky from where she was sitting, where she had her phone. And I was just kind of like laying on my back, like floating, looking up into the sky. And I saw two shapes, and they were like, they weren't discs like round. They were more like not even cigars either, like ovals is what they really were. They were ovals. And the best way I can describe how they were like sitting in the air is you had one of them like sitting right here and one of them was right here, and they were like doing this. Like they were just floating there, kind of hovering, almost like you'd think a helicopter would hover, right? Like it's not standing still. It's just kind of like, you know what I mean? Just moving a little bit.
Yeah.
And I freaked out. I was like, whoa, like what are those? Like, is that a helicopter? Because I don't know if you know this, but like in that neighborhood, you would see like airplanes and helicopters over the sky all the time. I don't know if there was like an airport near us, or I know like Camp
Yeah.
Atterbury
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
south of there, but anyways, so I was like, yo, is that like a helicopter, an airplane, whatever? So I yelled for my mom. I was like, Mom, come look at this. Well, it was back in the day where not everybody's always on their cell phone, so she puts her phone down and walks into the grass and looks up. And we both see these things, and they're just sitting there just, well, one of them just kind of like moves, and it was very slow. It was like it moved, and then it was gone. And I was like, did you fucking see that? And my mom was like freaking out. She was like, holy crap, blah, blah, blah. So she walks back to the deck to get her phone. And she's walking slowly. You know how my mom is. She's just like in no rush at all. She's always just in slow mode. Well,
Yeah.
I'm watching this thing still because I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, Cody, get my iPod, get my iPod. My brother's not even out there. He's inside the house. And I'm looking up and I'm seeing this thing and it's sitting in the sky and it's just like kind of doing this. And then it moves over and then it moves over and it's almost like doing like not shaped, but it's like just kind of like moving back and forth just to like taunt me is kind of what I felt like.
Yeah.
And then and when I tell you that this thing took off, it wasn't like I could follow it, right? It's not like it just kind of like it was gone. Like I
Yeah.
turned to try to find it facing over by not Daniel's house. It was the other house, like over by where Bailey lived, like towards the direction of that Dairy Queen. And I'm turning and I'm looking to try to see it, and it's gone. Like it is out of visible sight. It's nowhere. It's not off in the distance. I was like, what?
Yeah. See, that's so crazy. It's like similar situations too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's like it's not like you have one eyewitness. You
No,
have
my
multiple
mom was
eyewitnesses.
there, and my mom will vouch for it too because she swears up and down that this happened.
Yeah, and like my dad, same thing. He's like, remember one time you see a UFO, and I was like, yeah, of course I fucking remember that. Like that was crazy. And I think my younger brother, I think Miles is also out there. I don't know how much he remembers because he was real little, and then my real mom. Uh, but yeah, like if you have multiple eyewitnesses, it's just bizarre. Like, and people are like, no, no, that didn't happen. It's like I
Well,
know it's like anecdotal evidence,
yeah.
but I have anecdotal evidence from several different people. Like the Phoenix lights, for example, where people are like, no, it's like there's fucking video
I think
footage.
the only problem with that, and I fall into this category too, is like when I saw those Phoenix lights, like the videos that they have of it. If you were there, you know that that was a thing that happened. But if you're anybody else, you're just thinking, oh, that's CGI'd, that's edited. And that's
Yeah,
kind of where someone else's word comes into play and you don't believe it because just anybody can be like, oh yeah, I saw an alien, he fucked me. But like
yeah,
when you physically experience it and you know that you're not lying, like I'm not trying to get money off of saying that I saw an alien. I'm just like
yeah,
telling you, like I dead ass saw this thing. It's crazy. You had another story
yeah.
though?
I mean, it's kind of a story about aliens. It felt very alien, I would say, and relate it to aliens because it felt like I was being abducted at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this could be run of the mill sleep paralysis, but like it was very weird. So
Or you
I
could be a
was laying
test
in bed.
subject.
Huh?
I said, or you could be a test subject.
I mean, fucking, I don't know. I haven't went through meditation to put me to sleep to find out. But I I was laying down, and it was the same house that we seen the UFO fly above, which is kind of suspect. You know what I'm saying? Um, but I'm laying down and I'm falling asleep, and as I'm like starting to doze off, I feel like a pull, right? Like my body being pulled. And it feels like something's trying to like pull me out of my bed. And I can't move. I can't speak. I can't talk. I know what you're thinking, like, that's like sleep paralysis. But I also have like in my ears, I hear like static, like
Sure.
TV static. It's like whoosh.
And I don't think that's sleep paralysis either, because I've experienced that and mine was nothing like that.
Yeah, and I felt like I could hear the static, and it was like kind of like drowning out the noise. And as I feel like I'm getting pulled, all of a sudden it stops, and I'm back down, and I can hear again, but I can't move. Right
Mm.
now, the light was on the whole time, so I couldn't tell you if there was like lost time. And I'm gonna get into lost time in here in a second because this that shit freaks me out too. But I'm like trying to move, and I get my head to kind of go like that, and I see my great grandmother walking down the hallway, and I was like, "Help me, help me!" And she went over there and she shook me awake. She's like, "Oh my god, baby, you okay? You okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
fine." Oh my god, that was a horrible nightmare. And I didn't ask her, so I don't know. But part of me believes that, like at that moment, I was the static was like it pulling me, like a tractor beam fucking pulling me out of my bed and like getting me into like a mothership, and I was like out of it. And then it brought me back, and when the static stopped was when like time had passed and I'm now back in bed.
Yeah. And I think they
Cuz
could have inducted you into a sleep paralysis
yeah.
to kind of make you think it's a nightmare.
Uh-huh.
That's crazy.
I
I
mean,
want to
yeah, like
wow. Cuz I remember you telling me this story before,
yeah.
but like
It
damn, that kind of freaks me out more than mine,
it
honestly.
freaks me out, and every time I get sleep paralysis, I get scared. But the thing of it is it's I've had sleep paralysis since then.
Mhm.
And I've never experienced the pull. I've never experienced the static.
And you've never
It's always
experienced
just
like a
been
loss of time, right?
no, like no, and I didn't
I would
experience a
start
loss of time
checking.
then
I
either.
would start checking. Like deadass anytime you panic, like try to look at an alarm clock or try to check your phone and just see
Yeah.
if you lose time.
Well, eh, and I that just scares me so much because like I read a thing online, and you know the internet's full of truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
They may be lying. Fuck it. But there was a guy who wrote a story. I don't remember on what, but he said he went to like his grandparents' house and he was sitting on their couch, right? And he was watching television, and he said he blinked, and all of a sudden, like that, it was nighttime. Let me preface with this: it was nighttime.
Sure.
He's watching television, and he says something, and then he blinked, and everything's moved. It's the same exact TV show that was on, but it was daytime. So he's like, I'm talking like midnight. It was like midnight, and I blinked, and now it's 9:30 in the morning, and I'm like, hold up, that that fucking freaks me the fuck out. Cause like, you can always say like, oh, it's a supernatural explanation, but like aliens, dude. If that was a fucking alien, like just being like, pluck, boop, and to put you back in the same
And
exact spot, because
was
they're like, you
anyone
won't
around
suspect a
him?
thing.
Was like his grandma on the recliner or the couch? Like, was there any witnesses?
He said that his brother had just went to bed, and his
Mm.
grandparents were already in bed.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah, so it's like, I mean, they won't know if you got fucking abducted by aliens.
So so I have to tell you this second story. What phase or what you said it's like the fourth no, it wasn't the fourth kind. You
Third
said
kind, second kind,
you said seeing a UFO is the first kind.
yes,
Seeing proof of the UFO is the second. What was the third kind? Was the third kind like seeing the craft up close and you can see beings in it?
yes,
Okay. So this is a story about my grandma and her like the third kind story, even though she doesn't
yeah,
think it's aliens. She thinks it was like a message from God and like this spiritual thing or whatever. But when she was alive, I know you never like went to their house. You were like one of my only friends that never went to their old house. But she
yeah.
had a oh, God, hold on a second. 2.5 seconds. Way to interrupt the stream, Cody. Um, he was calling me on something else. Um, she had this back patio, and it was like something that my grandfather had made because he made like a bunch of shit. And it had
Yeah.
netted screens everywhere to like keep out the mosquitoes. They had blinds. It wasn't waterproof because rain could go in there, but they would sit out there. And I don't remember if he was dead at this point in time or if he was still alive, but I know that they would like go out there just to relax because you know how old people are. Like if they stay up late, like they go outside and like just look at stuff, talk on the phone to relatives, or they'll get up super early in the morning, like drink their coffee and just sit outside. Like, so she was sitting out there, and I don't remember what time she said it was, but she said it was dark, so like 7 p.m. and up. And she said she was looking up in the sky. And keep in mind, at this point in time, I don't remember if like I said, if my grandpa was alive or not, but she wasn't on like any kind of medication whatsoever.
Yeah.
She looks up into the sky as she's drinking her coffee, because that's what she would do. And she said it was like a blimp, like an old school, like, I guess that's just what it would be, is like a blimp. And she said it was literally floating, like almost touching the roof of my grandpa's garage, in their backyard. So I'm talking like maybe 30, 40, 50 feet off the ground. And
Hmm.
inside of this blimp, hold on, dog. My Discord notifications are going off. I'm gonna kick Cody's ass. Cody, I'm gonna kick your ass. Um, she looks inside of this blimp and she sees all of her past relatives in their younger forms. So she sees like her Uncle Pat, her brother, her grandparents, all in their prime, like 20s. And there's a glowing light inside of this like blimp. So it's like a blinding light, and she can see like they're kind of blurry, but she can make out
Hmm.
who they are. And they're all just waving at her, just waving hi. And I always thought that she was like fucking with me. So I'd always ask her, like, you had to be on drugs, right? Like, you were doing cocaine, you were smoking some weed. And she was like, no. And she never lied. She would always get mad at people calling her a liar. She swears up and down to her grave that this happened. And I don't know if you would consider that like an alien or
I
what, but
mean, like,
I believe her when she tells me that, because she's not the type of person to just like wake up one morning and be like, I'm going to lie to Dallas and like my mom, you know? Like she
yeah.
there's no reason that she would do that.
Now, let's. So you said you want to. You don't know if you want to call that alien because if it was like a like godly experience, like if she had like a paranormal experience. Now, do you consider aliens paranormal?
I would say that it depends on what you mean by paranormal, because I automatically
So,
just assume paranormal is like ghosts.
well, okay, like paranormal and the supernatural, right? The supernatural would be like, to me, the supernatural is like ghosts, demons, things like
Like
that.
supernatural.
Paranormal could be like aliens, ghosts, demons, fucking vampires, Bigfoot,
Sure, sure, sure.
shit like that. The chupacabra, fucking who
What would
knows?
you
Just
label
like,
that as though? Because like Bigfoot doesn't float up in the air to capture people.
I mean, but he is like a myth. So things with like a myth behind him, a legend per se. If you were to see that, that would be paranormal.
Sure.
Now, aliens, now would you consider like angels extraterrestrial? Now think
So,
about it. They come from a different world,
sure.
a different universe
So,
by all technicality.
kind of what I was saying about like the Egyptians earlier today, and
Yeah,
how I said that they thought that these gods and angels came down and they were actually aliens. That's kind of what I think. Is like
but to
maybe
them,
angels aren't angels and they're aliens.
but maybe angels are like an alien.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like, well, but like I'm saying, like maybe an angel, like those angels that visited the Egyptians, like fucking so long ago. Maybe they were just like, okay, I'm about to like repeat myself, but like think about it. Angels that like visited people about like the Christian religion.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
They're aliens.
Is I think that angels could be not
But
angels. They're
like,
literally just aliens.
what if? Now this doesn't get like very, and maybe we should shelve this for later. But I want you to like think about it. Like,
Okay.
put it in your ear. Uh, like what if that like all religion as we know it, not only is it like extraterrestrial, but like the backstory behind it is true in the sense that like these like this God per se that created all is what we're like describing, like what brought life to Earth. Like, what if like an alien species of some sort
Dropped us off on Earth.
is what began the process of hominids on Earth? Because they were like, this is a life, you know, this planet's thriving with life, it's already developing. Let's terraform it a little bit and make it livable for hominids.
Sure. I can agree with that. I can see that.
Like
But that just
like
makes me
Adam and
think.
Eve were dropped off by fucking aliens.
So
There's like,
let's take a step back because I like that idea. I think we should save that for another podcast.
but it's very tinfoil hat, right?
Yeah, that's a good one. But that just makes me think like, okay, so if we're gonna say that angels are aliens, right, and just assume that going forward with this conversation, are you saying that these aliens portrayed themselves as her thoughts to be seen? Are you saying that like what she saw, she actually saw, but it was just aliens changing what she saw? Kind of like how you said on that movie that she saw aliens and they replaced it with
Owls.
owls. Are you saying that
Yeah.
she went outside and got abducted by aliens and then went back inside and she remembers it, but they replaced that thought with a blimp?
With something more comforting. She's seen all her loved ones on that blip, and now she might have thought it was bizarre, but like you're like, oh, you're crazy, grandma. Like you're crazy. You kind of shrug it off. Now I might eat at you, but you're not gonna be like fucking aliens, man. I mean, you did, but they didn't think that. They were probably just like, haha, crazy grandma, religion,
But that just
lol.
makes me think, why did she not freak out about it? Because she told us, but she wasn't like tinfoil hat, like, oh my God, my dead relatives were up there. She was just like, no, I swear they were up there. And then like
She
changed
already
the,
believes that.
and then she changed. So are you saying that she thinks that maybe that was God and actually her dead relatives, maybe?
Yes, she doesn't think it was aliens, but we think it's aliens because an alien would do that. It would put something in place more comforting so you don't remember the times you were taken.
And honestly, not to like get into this subject, but like what kind of freaks me out is if this did happen after my grandpa died. I don't know if I've told you this, but you know how my grandma used to be like really healthy and then she deteriorated like fast after he passed away.
Yeah.
What if she deteriorated fast because of something that the aliens did?
I mean, there's no real way of proving that, but you know, I'm not gonna say there's potential for it. What are you gonna get revenge on the aliens? Just be
Right, I'm
like, you
gonna nuke them for
motherfuckers,
destroying her.
you
No, but like
motherfuckers.
every time I think of my alien stories, it's always my personal witness and my grandma's because, like I said, there's no way that she would lie about something like that. I wholeheartedly believe everything that she said, and that's just mind blown me because I've never thought of them actually to be aliens just until like a week or so ago when I was trying to think of like ideas for this. I thought
Yeah.
I thought that either in the past maybe it was angels or maybe she was just hallucinating. I don't know what would cause somebody to hallucinate like that when they're not on any type of medications and she was perfectly healthy at that point in time. That was still when she lived, in that house. So she was fine. She didn't have to move out and be by herself. That was before her heart attack. That was before she broke her, everything. So
No, I got what you're saying. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. It's a toughie.
didn't
But
okay, not to get off topic, but like speaking of supernatural things, didn't you say that your dad saw the rake?
oh, you're talking about the Hopewell monster.
The huh?
Yes, the Hopewell monster. So
Maybe.
he calls it the rake because it's like a buzzword. He's like, I read creepy pastas too. Ha ha! Look at me, I'm such a hip father. Ah. Um, no, but so he used to go on a paper route. This is actually an interesting. I mean, I don't know. Do you want to shelve this one for the horror thing, the horror podcast?
Yes, we need to. Because I was just thinking
Because I
about
have a
that.
whole story for it.
Creepy
Yeah,
things
the
that
Hopewell
happened.
monster, scary as fuck, and he was scared shitless. He was like, "Huh." That's not right.
Your dad's seen a lot of shit.
Oh yeah, dude. He's seen some shit. I mean, I've seen some shit too. That's kind of like, don't fuck with that. But you know, the
I
other
th-
shit that I've seen, I'll just
I
save
think
for the later podcast.
I think we should do that as a next episode.
Yeah,
Um, if you guys are watching this on YouTube right now, leave a comment what you guys want our next episode to be. If you think we should do creepy stories, creepy pastas, stuff like that, I think that would be
yeah.
a good thing. If there's anybody that is willing to reply or watching this on YouTube, because I know this is going to be like a 2-hour video, um, let us know what you think.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be an
How long are
interesting
we
one.
rolling?
We're sitting at an hour 36.
Hmm, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we've went through like everything. I mean, there's some things we skipped, but like we kind of brushed through them. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we had a good discussion here, bud.
Yeah. I mean, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, space is definitely like one of my favorite subjects. I like space. I like the vastness of it. I think one of my first tattoos that I want to get is like a galaxy on my arm. I think that shit's cool. And then also the fact that not only do aliens possibly come from space, but like aliens just in general are very interesting. This was a very interesting subject. And I almost want to say that like later on down the line, maybe we could do a part 2 to this just to kind of expand on some of the things and maybe even have a professional idiot to talk to about.
If we can get that'd be cool. Like, what if we can get the guy from Ancient Aliens on here? Big hair guy. I don't know if I'd want him on here. That'd be scary. That'd be. I would be seriously like threatened. I'd feel threatened. I'd be like, don't want to talk to you.
I feel like if we talk to him, aliens would be hunting for us. They know that we've come in contact with him. They're like, we need to find these individuals and take them out.
His ideas are like some of his ideas are like, yeah, that makes sense, but then a lot of them are just like fucking
Yeah.
what?
All right.
But
Well, if you don't have anything else to add, I think we're gonna wrap this episode up. Um, this was episode 2 of Idiots Talking Candidly. We were talking about space and aliens. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at twitter.com at Candid Idiots. Wait, is that right? Yes, that's right. Twitter is at Candid Idiots. You can find us
Candid
on
Idiots.
Twitch at Idiots Talking Candidly, and you can find us on YouTube at Idiots Talking Candidly Podcast. I'm Dallas, and
I'm Marcus, and this was
Idiots Talking
Idiot
Candidly.
Talking Candidly. Thanks for watching.
We're never doing this outro like this ever again.
I like that.
See you guys the other
Bye.
Thursday after next Thursday.
2 weeks.
Yes.